How far would you go for power and wealth? Would you betray your principles, your loved ones, or even risk the lives of millions? In the heart of our existence, there lies a primal instinct that has been guiding us since the dawn of time. The instinct for survival and dominance. It's a force so powerful it has shaped our behaviors, our societies, our entire civilization. But as we have evolved, so too has this instinct. It has morphed, twisted and turned into something far more complex, and in some cases far more dangerous, the relentless pursuit of power and wealth. Today, the quest for power and wealth is not merely a matter of survival. It's about status, control, and the ability to shape the world according to one's own desires. It's a game where the stakes are high and the rewards are immense. But it's also a game that can bring out the worst in us, that can lead us to compromise our morals, betray our loved ones, and even risk the lives of millions. This ruthless ambition is not exclusive to any particular individual or group. It's a universal phenomenon cutting across cultures, societies, and time periods. From the ancient emperors who built vast empires on the backs of their subjects, to the modern corporate moguls who amass fortunes while disregarding the welfare of their employees and consumers, the quest for power and wealth has been a constant in human history. Why do we yearn for power and wealth with such intensity? Is it merely a product of our primal instinct for survival and dominance? Or is there something more, something deeper, that drives us? These are questions that have puzzled philosophers, psychologists, and social scientists for centuries. The pursuit of power and wealth is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, one that is deeply embedded in our psychology, our culture, and our social structures. It's a subject that warrants a thorough and nuanced exploration. So let's delve into some real-life stories that exemplify this dangerous pursuit. Meet Bernie Madoff, a man whose hunger for wealth led him to orchestrate the largest Ponzi scheme in history. Bernie Madoff, a name synonymous with deceit and devastation, was once a respected figure on Wall Street. As the former chairman of the Nasdaq, he was a seemingly trustworthy individual at the pinnacle of the financial world. But beneath the facade of success and respectability, Madoff was orchestrating a financial scheme of epic proportions. Madoff's Ponzi scheme was startling in its simplicity. He promised consistently high returns to his investors, assuring them that their money was safe in his hands. But instead of investing their funds, Madoff was merely using the money from new investors to pay off the old ones. This cycle of false returns and constant recruitment of new investors kept the scheme afloat for years. At the height of his scheme, Madoff was managing billions of dollars, but his empire was built on nothing more than smoke and mirrors. When the financial crisis of 2008 hit, the facade began to crumble. Unable to meet the withdrawal requests of his panicked investors, Madoff's web of deceit was finally exposed. The fallout was immense. Thousands of people, including charities and pension funds, lost their life savings. The shockwaves of Madoff's deceit rippled through the global financial community, shattering the trust of investors and reinforcing the need for stricter financial regulations. But what was most chilling about Madoff's story was not the scale of his scheme, but the lengths he was willing to go to maintain his wealth and status. Madoff was prepared to deceive friends, family, and even charities, showing a complete disregard for the lives he was destroying in the pursuit of personal gain. Madoff's story is a chilling reminder of how far some are willing to go for money and power. From Wall Street to the world stage, let's turn our attention to Saddam Hussein, a man whose lust for power led to war and the loss of countless lives. Saddam Hussein, born in Tikrit, Iraq, rose to prominence in the turbulent world of Iraqi politics. He navigated the treacherous waters with ruthless determination, eventually becoming the president in 1979. Yet, his reign was not one of benevolence and progress, but of fear and oppression. His thirst for power was unquenchable. He sought to make Iraq a dominant force in the Middle East, and his ambition led him down a path of war and destruction. The Iran-Iraq War, initiated by Hussein in 1980, was a clear testament to his insatiable desire for dominance. It was a gruesome 8-year conflict that claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands. But the atrocities did not stop at the borders of Iraq. His regime was marked by widespread human rights abuses. Torture and execution were common tools of oppression, used to quash any opposition and maintain a climate of fear. It's estimated that as many as 200,000 Kurds were killed during the Anfal campaign, a brutal genocide driven by Hussein's regime. And then came the Gulf War of 1991, a war triggered by Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. The conflict led to a devastating loss of life and left Iraq in economic ruin. Yet even in the face of international condemnation and sanctions, Hussein clung to power with an iron grip. In the end, his downfall was as dramatic as his rise. Captured in 2003, he was tried and executed for his crimes against humanity. The legacy he left behind was one of a nation scarred by decades of war and repression. The tale of Saddam Hussein is a stark example of the devastating effects of unchecked power and ambition. His story serves as a chilling reminder that the pursuit of power, when devoid of compassion and respect for human life, can lead to unimaginable destruction. Let's now revisit the infamous Enron scandal, a case study in corporate greed and deception. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Enron Corporation, an American energy company, was considered a blue-chip stock. It was hailed as the most innovative company in America for 6 consecutive years by Fortune magazine. Behind this facade of success, however, lay a complex web of deceit and manipulation. The key players in this scandal were Enron's top executives, namely Kenneth Lay, Jeffrey Skilling and Andrew Fastow. These men were the architects of a series of accounting tricks and special-purpose entities designed to hide Enron's massive debts and inflate its profits. Enron's auditors, Arthur Andersen, were complicit in the deceit, turning a blind eye to the company's financial manipulations. They rubber-stamped Enron's books, giving the illusion of financial stability and success to investors and the general public. The result was a house of cards ready to collapse at the slightest gust of wind. And collapse it did. In October 2001, Enron reported a third-quarter loss of $618 million and a $1.2 billion reduction in shareholder equity. This marked the beginning of the end for Enron. By December, the company filed for the then largest bankruptcy in US history, wiping out billions in investor wealth and leading to thousands of job losses. The aftermath of the scandal saw the key players facing justice. Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling were convicted of fraud and conspiracy, while Arthur Andersen was found guilty of obstructing justice for destroying documents related to Enron's audit. But the damage was done. The Enron scandal shook the business world to its core, leading to a loss of trust in corporate America and ushering in new regulations to prevent such egregious abuses of power. The Enron scandal serves as a grim reminder of the lengths some corporations will go to secure wealth and power. We've seen the lengths people will go to attain power and wealth. But what is the true cost? In our pursuit to understand, we've journeyed through tales of deceit, manipulation, and utter disregard for humanity. We've seen the case of Bernie Madoff, who orchestrated the largest financial fraud in US history, leaving thousands penniless. We've observed the reign of Saddam Hussein, a man whose lust for power led to the death and suffering of millions. We've uncovered the Enron scandal, a story of corporate greed that resulted in the loss of jobs and life savings for countless individuals. Each of these stories paints a vivid picture of the cost of power and wealth. For those who seek it, the price is often their morality, their integrity, and their humanity. They sacrifice their values, betray the trust of others, and in extreme cases are even willing to take lives. But the cost extends far beyond the individuals who chase this power and wealth. It reaches into the lives of everyday people, into our communities, and into the heart of our society. When trust is betrayed on such a large scale, it leaves behind a trail of skepticism and cynicism. It erodes our faith in institutions and in each other. It creates a society where people are more concerned with their own survival than with the well-being of their fellow human beings. The repercussions of these actions ripple outwards, affecting not just the present but also the future. They shape the world that the next generation inherits. A world that is more cynical, less trusting, and more divided. It is a world where power and wealth are seen as the ultimate goal, regardless of the cost. And so, as we reflect on these stories, we come to a sobering realization. The pursuit of power and wealth, when unchecked, can lead to the destruction of the very fabric of our society. It can shatter lives, divide communities, and create a world that is less compassionate, less understanding, and less humane. In the end, we must ask ourselves, is the pursuit of power and wealth worth the price we pay?